again, everyone. I'm Chris Lincoln. We're now less than a month away from the 119th Kentucky Derby at Churchill Downs. And this past weekend featured the three-year-olds in coast-to-coast prep races. In fact, we've got a double feature for you. Wire-to-wire coverage of the Santa Anita Derby and the Gotham Stakes in New York. Let's begin in Southern California. 56th running of the Grade 1 Santa Anita Derby. The first $500,000, the distance 1.8 miles. And let's take a look at the field. From the rail, the favorite Personal Hope at 3-2 was second in the San Felipe after winning the Bradbury. Union City, Dwayne Lucas is improving colt at 7-2 with Chris McCarran. Gavel Gate at 9-1 coming off an 8-length allowance victory. Then it's the filly Eliza, the 15th filly ever to run in the Santa Anita Derby. She is the 2-year-old champion of last year at 3-1 with Pat Valenzuela, and she gets the weight break there at 117. Earl of Barking making his first start of 93 at 23. Only Alpha is a huge price. Then the San Rafael winner, Devoted Brass. Now let's go to ABC's coverage of Saturday's Santa Anita Derby. Dave Johnson with the call.
And there are Eliza breaking sharply from between horses. Personal Hope along the inside is right there as expected. And now Personal Hope takes the early lead. Eliza on the outside into the second spot. The rail, Union City is racing third by a head, with Gamblegate alongside in fourth. Then a gap of 1.5 lengths. Earl of Barking is fifth on the outside. Devoted Brass is sixth. And at the back of the pack, only Alpha is now the trailer. As they round the turn and race to the backstretch, Personal Hope has it by 1 3/4 lengths with the filly Eliza in pursuit from the second spot. 2.5 back. Union City is racing in third position. And now Devoted Brass, closer than usual, is fourth. Earl of Barking on the outside fifth. Gavelgate sixth. And the trailer is only Alpha. Down the backstretch after the half in just under 47 seconds. It's Personal Hope trying to stretch his speed. Gary Stevens aboard, but here comes the filly Eliza on the outside with Pat Valenzuela. They hook up on the front end. Eliza on the outside, putting it head in front. Personal Hope at the rail, back into the second spot. Then a gap of 4, and it's Union City racing in third. Midway on the turn, and it's Eliza showing she can race with the boys. She's in front by a head, but now Personal Hope along the inside, coming back 1/4 mile to go. Eliza on the outside. Personal Hope at the rail. Union City just behind the top two. In third with the green cap and coming on, and Devoted Brass is fourth, followed by Earl of Barking. And down the front they come. Personal Hope at the rail. Eliza between horses. Union City on the outside. 3 to the 4 of the pack. 70 yards to go. Personal Hope digging in, hanging on the inside. Union City on the outside. Finishes second. Eliza was third.
The favorite Personal Hope goes wire to wire, holds on to win the Santa Anita Derby for Lee and Debbie Lewis of Lubbock, Texas, and their young trainer, Mark Hennick. Personal Hope, who was beaten by Corby by almost 3 lengths in the San Felipe, is a colt by Stormbird out of the Aladar mare all the years. Dwayne Lucas is improving. Union City was second, and the filly Eliza a game third, beaten less than a length. Well, after the race, our Mike Willman had a chance to talk to the riders involved, including the winning jockey, Gary Stevens, on Personal Hope to get his comments, and then Pat Valenzuela on the filly Eliza.
When Pat kicked on at the half-mile pole, that changed the whole outlook of the race. I was very content early. My colt was nice and relaxed, and like I say, Pat knew what I was doing up there. He had no other choice but to hook me when he did. That was his only chance of winning. But the scary thing about that is you set things up more than likely for the horse that's sitting in the garden spot, and that was Union City. But this colt, I had plenty of left when we hit the 8th pole. I'm glad it wasn't the 1.25 miles today, though.
Eliza runs that way anyways. Going into the far turn, she switches to her left lead, and she picks it up all on her own. You know, I wasn't going to fight her at that point. If I put away Personal Hope and got away, opened up a good clear margin entering the stretch, I thought I could have won it, but Personal Hope never gave up. He's a super horse.
Eliza's owner, Alan Paulson, says that the filly will now go back to running against fillies and be pointed for the Kentucky Oaks the day before the Derby. Well, after this weekend stakes, though, here's the latest Triple Crown poll from the National Vote by the Thorbett Racing Communications. The Daily Racing Form Thoroughbred Digest is brought to you by America's Turf Authority, the Daily Racing Form, by Doubletree Hotels, 1-800-222-TREE. It's a smart call. By Gainsborough Farm. by Kingsford Charcoal. Lights faster, cooks longer. Welcome back on the Digest for the rest of this weekend's major sophomore tests on the road to that May 1st Kentucky Derby. Let's go to New York now. The 41st running of the $200,000 Gotham Stakes. Here are the conditions. It's a mile for 3-year-olds going around one turn on Aqueduct's main track. And let's take a look at the field. Castelli Street and Rower, big prices on the inside. We scratched the Cherry Hill Mile winner, Silver Key. Then it's Ataka, being ridden by Mike Smith for Giles Brophy, as indicated, undefeated before throwing his rider off in the Swift Stakes and not finishing there. Ozan, 5-2 from John and Anthony's Love Lolly stable. Hickory Lake, Fighting Daddy are big prices. Then the favorite at 6-5, making his first start since running 8th in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, the Grade 1 Futurity winner last year, strolling along. Frank Dwyer calls the Gotham from New York.
They're off in the Gotham. Strolling along, broke well from the extreme outside, as indicated. Moves through from between horses now to assert himself, and as indicated, goes right up and takes the lead away from Strolling Along. 2 lengths back down to Castelli Street. After that comes Rower now, and they continue as they leave the chute. As indicated, leads the way. Castelli Street second, Strolling Along third. Then from between horses, Rower far outside is Fighting Daddy, Ozan, Itaka moving up in Hickory Lake. They continue their run down the backstretch, and they're bunching on the front end, as indicated, has a short lead. Strolling Along goes right up at him now. Those two match strides continuing through the opening quarter of 23 N2. Strolling Along, and as indicated, on even terms, they've opened up 3, and Fighting Daddy. Ozan is next and fourth on the outside in good position, saving ground. Castelli Street, who's followed by Itaka on the inside, and 5 to the 2 trailers, Hickory Lake and Rower, with 3 furlongs to run midway on the turn. As indicated, his game takes over the lead again by a neck. Fighting back on the outside is Strolling Along. Itaka has advanced into third. Ozan is next. Castelli Street, Fighting Daddy, Rower, and Hickory Lake into the home stretch now, and Strolling Along on the outside takes a short lead. As indicated, his game, Itaka's closing ground. Coming inside the furlong ground, Strolling Along has the lead. Itaka's next, as indicated, battles bravely with the late runners. Ozan, as indicated, comes back again, puts her head in front. Strolling Along is next. Itaka the outside, as indicated, and Itaka, here's the line, as indicated, wins it.
Third choice, as indicated, with apprentice jockey Craig Pisano, hangs on to win the Gotham by a neck over Giles Brophy's Jade Hunter colt, Ataka. The favorite Strolling Along came home third over a track labeled as good. Favorite Ozan of Loblolly was fourth. The win, the 4th win in 5 career starts for this son of Zarovich, who's been away from the races for 2 months. As indicated, his trainer, Richard Schosberg, says the Heatherwood Farm colt could very well go to the Derby. They'll have to do well in his next start, the April 17th $500,000 Wood Memorial. We go to Oklahoma for the other 6-figure Derby prep of the weekend, the $300,000 mile and a 16th Remington Park Derby, featured here on ESPN. Loblolly Stables' Mark Tree and Dry B made up the favorite entry. They left the gate at 2-1 against the likes of El Camino Real Derby owner Elatros and the local favorite, Brother Brown, on the lead.
They're at the top of the stretch and turning for home. Brother Brown desperately trying to hold as Mark Tree takes a 4-wide sweep at him. Tall boy down on the inside, right there running third. Ragtime Rebel, a late run down the middle of the racetrack. And Mark Tree has taken a short lead, but Brother Brown is a resolute rival today. Brother Brown coming back. Mark Tree surges again. It's him to the wire, and Mark Tree wins by a desperate head.
That was the 3rd major Kentucky Derby prep victory in 2 weeks for John and Anthony's Loblolly stable, with Mark Tree completing his sweep of the 3-race Remington Park Derby series. As for the Northern California invader Elatros, he finished 6th. John and Anthony and Tom Bohannon stated after the race the stable's main Kentucky Derby hopes remain Dalhart and Prairie Bayou, but they've not ruled out Mark Tree as a Derby starter. The $325,000 Keeneland sale purchase is the son of the champion 49er. He's set to start next in the April 18th Lexington Stakes. We've got another Derby prep to show you now, not a 6-figure event, but Pimlico's $75,000 deputed testimony. He did have a double-digit winner in Charles J. Reed's Chips Dancer. He came home 13 lengths in front of 3 others in the mile and an 1/8 race, stopping the teletimer at 1:50.2. He's a perfect 5 for 5 as a 3-year-old. And as you can see by the prices, the Pimlico crowd had no doubt about this gelding by dancing count. They sent him off as 1-5 before the gates opened. The Gerald Ferris trainee, now 6 of 8 lifetime for his connection. Let's finish off our look at the 3-year-olds now with a filly event. The 7-furlong, $112,000 Beaumont at Keeneland. Another favorite was an easy winner. Try Honor Stables' Roman Rachel, who scored by 3 under jockey Chris Antley at the Lexington, Kentucky track. It was the 3rd straight stakes win for Roman Rachel, a $22,000 Keeneland sales graduate who came to Keeneland from New York, where she was the recent winner of the Ruthless Stakes. Roman Rachel, conditioned by Shug McGahee, who also trained her sire, the sprint star Mining. An update on jockeys looking now for Kentucky Derby mounts. Hall of Fame rider Chris McCarron is reported in the Blood Horse, is now committed to Alan Paulson's Corby to ride him in the Bluegrass and the Kentucky Derby. Corby, the current betting favorite for the Run for the Roses. Mike Smith will ride Loblolly's Prairie Bayou in the Bluegrass, and Mark Tree, we understand, may now go to the Wood instead of the Lexington after winning Saturday's Remington Park Derby. Well, coming up, some of the top older horses in action, including the return of a Breeders' Cup champion. Well, now that we've updated you on the national 3-year-old picture, let's bring you the rest of the weekend stakes action. Let's return to Santa Anita for the $200,000 mile and an 8th San Bernardino handicap, one of 2 other stakes on Saturday's Derby Day card. Currently second in the pink and green is the race favorite Marquetry, last year's Hollywood Gold Cup winner. He's chasing the leader, Memo. Here's Trevor Denman.
A quarter of a mile to run, and Memo's still got something left out here. Memo's going to take some catching. He kicks on gamely for home. Charmanier second, Marquetry's third. The others are too far back to win this one, and it's Memo and Charmanier now down to 2 horses. Memo on the inside under Paul Atkinson. Charmanier and Lafitte Pink Eye catching on the outside. Memo and Charmanier going to hit the wire together. Memo's tough and hanging on. Memo one at ahead to Charmanier. Marquetry finished third.
The Chilean-bred Memo, a 9-to-1 long shot here in the San Bernardino, comes home just a neck in front of 10-to-1 Charmanier. Then it was 5 lengths back to the millionaire favorite Marquetry. The San Bernardino was the 9th win in 22 starts for this 6-year-old, ridden here by Paul Atkinson for trainer Richard Mandela. Also on Santa Anita Derby Day, it's the Las Ciénegas for fillies and mares going 6.5 furlongs on the turf. 2 left the gate here at 6-5. Wayne Gretzky and Bruce McNall's Glen Kate, trained by Bill Shoemaker, and Golden Eagle Farms' Heart of Joy.
At the top of the lane, and Glen Kate kicking on. Heart of Joy and Worldly Possession. These 3 to fight it out. Glen Kate, Heart of Joy, Worldly Possession on the grandstand side. Heart of Joy, Worldly Possession. Glen Kate trying to hang tough down at the rail. Heart of Joy in front. Worldly Possession. Glen Kate coming back at the rail. Heart of Joy, Glen Kate, they hit the wire. Glen Kate a nose to Heart of Joy.
Glen Kate loses the lead in mid-stretch, but then fights back to win the Las Ciénegas by a head. For owners Bruce McNall and hockey superstar Wayne Gretzky. Take a look at Glen Kate now. She comes in the winner's circle with jockey Corey Black up. There's Bill Shoemaker next to Bill, Hall of Fame jockey Johnny Longden. Glen Kate, a 6-year-old daughter of Glen Stahl out of Miss Kate. Sunday at Santa Anita, probably the most exciting of any of the weekend stakes, the $205,000 Santa Barbara handicap for fillies and mares. 4 in here, but it would only be a 2-horse race between Tri-Sheed in the orange and Sid and Jenny Craig's Exchange in the blue and white.
5/16 to go, and Chris McCarron pushes the button on Tri-Sheed now, and Tri-Sheed goes up to put her head in front, but she's going to have to deal with Exchange, one of the toughest ones around. These 2 have turned it into their own private little match race. Tri-Sheed and Chris McCarron on the outside. Exchange and Lafitte Pink Eye, game as ever at the rail. Tri-Sheed has the class, Exchange has the heart. They come through the lane, nose and nose. Tri-Sheed on the outside, Exchange at the rail. They're going to hit the wire as one. Tri-Sheed and Exchange above the nose, impossible to split those.
And it was Exchange on the rail, running her heart out to catch Tri-Sheed at the wire, surviving a claim of foul then by Tri-Sheed's jockey Chris McCarron, as Exchange wins the Santa Barbara for owner Sid Craig and trainer Bill Spar. $50,000 Keeneland sales purchase, ridden by the great Hall of Famer Lafitte Pink Eye Jr., his 8th Santa Barbara victory. Round of applause for Exchange, the daughter of Explodin'. What a mare. Lure, the winner of the 1992 Breeders' Cup Mile, returned to the races during the opening weekend of Keeneland's spring meeting. The Danzig colt in the famed Claiborne colors made his 1993 debut in a mile allowance race there on Sunday. He was never really challenged, coming home 4 lengths in front. The 1-2 favorite, ridden here by the same rider who piloted him to the Breeders' Cup victory, jockey Mike Smith. So now in just 4 career starts on the turf, Lure has won over $600,000. His next race, according to the Claiborne connections, the early times at Churchill Downs the day before the Kentucky Derby. We'll finish our race recap now on the turf. Last Wednesday's closing day feature at Gulfstream Park, the $200,000 Orchid Handicap. Fillies and mares going 1.5 miles. An impressive win here from Virginia Kraft Payson's Ferry Garden, who absolutely rocketed away from the field at mid-stretch, driving home to win by 5 lengths on the jockey Wigberto Ramos. The daughter of Leafard was bred in Virginia by her owner and is so far having a very lucrative 1993. 2 stakes wins, earnings of $150,000 plus, more than she earned in all of last year. Ferry Garden trained for Mrs. Payson by Canadian Roger Atfield. Some international racing news. The Grand National, the most famous steeplechase race in the world, was for the first time in its 157-year history declared void because of the outdated starting system at the historic Aintree course outside London. Flag-waving officials could not alert the majority of the jockeys to a false start. 30 of the 39 horses continue the 4.5-mile race. The race will not be rerun. British bookmakers will have to pay back $115 million in bets. While the Grand National now, according to the British tabloids, are saying it's the day the sport of kings became the sport of clowns. Well, with that in mind, the Daily Racing Form's artist Peb might have been thinking of that disaster at the Grand National. He shows us 2 jockeys. A little bit of a discussion. Well, it's time on the digest to help make you a winner at the racetrack with the Daily Racing Form's Dan Kinney. He has an explanation now of trip handicapping for us.
A style of horseplay called trip handicapping came into vogue in the 1980s. Emphasis is placed on what happened to a horse in previous races in its trips around the oval. It's a useful form of analysis unless you make a religion out of it and blind yourself to other factors. Of course it's valuable. After all, a horse can hardly produce its best effort if it gets bumped leaving the gate, is forced wide around all turns, the jock drops the whip, and then it jumps the starting gate tracks just before the finish line. Chances are, however, that 10,000 other people noticed the same things you did, and the information is factored into a too short price next time. Then the trip becomes a trap. Remember this, trip handicapping is most valuable when it's subtle. For instance, in turf racing, it might be a confirmed stretch runner who gets caught wide behind a too slow pace. The speed stays, and this horse sports a deceivingly poor finish line because he can't pass fresh horses. Next time out, he may be drawn inside in a field of contested speed. A scoot down the rail may get you the money in one of those frantic finishes so common on grass. Or a horse overcomes a poor start, makes a big turn move, then flattens out. A trip handicapper's dream come true was AP Indy in the Breeders' Cup Classic after just such a trip in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. Still, you need to be wary. A common error is to bet heavily on horses who broke slowly last out. An old saying goes, if they do it once, they can do it again. Trainers will tell you that a horse who begins to get away slowly may be hurting in their back or hind legs. They don't want to push down with the exertion necessary to break alertly. My favorite trip play is the sprinter, caught 3 or 4 wide for the first half mile. Many times they'll battle hard to the stretch, but then give it up in the final quarter mile in frustration. Drawn inside against a similar bunch, watch this horse win a fair share at good odds. The Daily Racing Form chart footnotes and trouble lines can help you keep track of horses who suffered rough trips.
Thank you, Dan. Now, this Saturday, what is shaping up to be the definitive Kentucky Derby prep race, the Bluegrass Stakes at Keeneland, will be featured here on ESPN. We have a preview now from Lexington, Kentucky, with Mike Hartnett.
Kentucky Derby contender Corby was an early arrival to Churchill Downs, shipping to the track 32 days before the Run for the Roses. Another Triple Crown hopeful, Dixieland Heat, beat Corby to the track by just a few hours.
We thought he did adapt a little bit better at Churchill, and we're trying to get ready for the first Saturday in May. You know, that was our main plan.
Romero's plan has Dixieland Heat going postward in the Bluegrass Stakes at Keeneland, which could prove to be the most important prep for the Kentucky Derby. Corby's connections have the same plan mapped out for their colt. After turning in a strong effort in winning the San Felipe at Santa Anita, Corby stamped himself as a serious Derby threat. The victory earned him a try in the Bluegrass.
The Santa Anita Derby came up kind of fast for John, and Mr. Paulson decided that they wanted it one more week before the next race.
Don Chatlis works for Corby's trainer, John Sadler, who believed it was best for his Derby hopeful to come early to Kentucky.
Yeah, the racetrack is great for training. You know, you're trying to avoid any injuries before the big day.
To be ready for May 1st, Corby's crew had to put in some time to fine-tune their runner.
Well, John really worked hard with him to get him to calm himself down. And little by little, he started to do that. And, you know, you can just see by his size and the stride that he has, if you could ever make him put it all together, you know, he would be one of the top 3-year-olds.
Dixieland Heat might be the top 3-year-old. After all, he's undefeated after winning the Louisiana Derby.
He showed a lot of courage. We was very impressed. It's like I said, it was the tougher of the 5 races, and he showed a lot of courage coming down on the inside. He got in a little tight the last 1/8 of a mile, fought back. It was real tight, and he showed a lot of determination.
These early arrivals to the Derby show, Dixieland Heat and Corby, can really boost their Derby chances with a strong showing in the Bluegrass Stakes. For the Daily Racing Form Thoroughbred Digest, I'm Mike Hartnett.
See the Bluegrass Stakes in its entirety as part of our live Oaklawn Handicap telecast this Saturday starting at 5 o'clock Eastern. The $750,000 Oaklawn Handicap will feature last year's Kentucky Derby winner Lil E.T., unbeaten in 2 starts as a 4-year-old. Also expected, his best pal, winner of almost $4 million in Gary Jones's barn out west, and also from the West Coast, Jovial. It's a super thoroughbred doubleheader, the Oaklawn Handicap and the Bluegrass Stakes Saturday on ESPN. Corby, of course, the Bluegrass favorite and the favorite right now to win the Kentucky Derby. The Winterbook favorite, River Special, is through for the spring, hit with a slight fracture of the right foreleg. Back in a moment. And some final notes. Gulfstream Park ended its racing season this past Wednesday with the largest mutual handle for a single season in the history of Florida racing. Over $248 million wagered during the 68-day meeting. Reminder, the Digest show next week, same time, Monday at 6 o'clock. Don't forget the big thoroughbred doubleheader, the Oaklawn Handicap and the Bluegrass, Saturday at 5 o'clock. So long, everyone. The Daily Racing Form Thoroughbred Digest has been brought to you by America's Turf Authority, the Daily Racing Form, and by the Illinois Department of Agriculture, promoting Illinois-bred horses year-round. Ground transportation provided by Thrifty Car Rentals. For reservations at over 700 locations worldwide, call Thrifty at 1-800-4-CAR. This has been an ESPN Sports presentation in association with Winner Communications.